Hey, everybody. This is Joshua Littrell. Thanks so much for tuning in to our Veterans for Cannabis podcast. Today, I am joined by an absolute champion, a United States Marine Corps veteran, Anthony Knapper. Anthony, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well today. How about yourself?
I'm doing well, sir. I'm doing really well. If you wouldn't mind giving our listeners a sense of where you're at in this country right now, where are you located at?
Joshua, I'm located in Athens, Georgia, home of the Georgia Bulldogs.
Oh, the classic city as well.
Yes, sir.
Awesome, awesome. So, Anthony, you're a United States Marine veteran, is that correct?
That is correct.
So, what did you do while you were in the Marine Corps?
Joshua, I was an air traffic controller at HMX-1 Marine Corps Airfield at Quantico, Virginia.
Wow. Holy cow. Quantico. You hear so many stories coming out of Quantico, and I can't even imagine what you've got to tell.
Yep, your hand taped to your cover. Salute,
Oh
salute,
my
salute.
gosh, that's so true. So true. So air traffic control. Now, Anthony, that's a terribly stressful job from what I understand. Is that correct?
It is at times.
So how when you're in the military, when you're active, and how many years did you serve, if you don't mind me asking?
I served 4 years.
4 years. Awesome. Well, thank you for your service. I understand your sister's a veteran too. Is that right?
She is. She's a retired captain, medically discharged from the Marine Corps. Sorry, from the U.S. Army because of PTSD.
So a family full of veterans and a family that's suffering as well, like so many of our brothers and sisters do. Anthony, if I'm not mistaken, I understand you have PTS as well, so you suffer just like I do.
I do.
So there's a lot of different things that are coming about in the industry and in the movement. We talk about cannabis a lot. It just happens to be a Veterans for Cannabis podcast. Have you ever been exposed to cannabis? Have you ever utilized cannabis as a medical option?
It is my biggest savior at the moment.
Wow. Holy cow. So, Anthony, tell us a little bit about your service. You know, obviously you couldn't utilize cannabis when you were in the service. When you got out of the service, how long did it take you to figure out that cannabis was a good option for you to help treat the PTS?
Joshua, if I may, beforehand, when I was a youth, I never tried it. I had friends who tried it, more for recreational uses, and obviously during my stint in the Marine Corps, I could not use it, and I was more on the side of the reefer madness theory, where I was afraid and heard terrible things about it.
Right.
But once I got out and the suffering and getting 120 lower tabs a month,
Hmm.
and just really being a an invalid. I couldn't do anything. So once I learned more about cannabis, I tried it. It saved my life.
Wow. I cannot say thank you enough for one sharing your story, and then two, just being able to, stick to what we're doing. And what I mean by that is stick to the movement, the push, and fighting for access. You joined us at our casket demonstration, Anthony, and I was so taken aback by the fact that you were willing to do what so many of us don't do, and that's become comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's getting out, being active, and helping fight for access. When you showed up to that casket demonstration, what was that like for you? Had you ever been a part of something like that before?
Yesterday, when Massa and I pulled up, I was absolutely elated. Just the fact that there were other veterans and civilians that were sitting there supporting a movement that could absolutely lessen the 22 a day that we lose now. So the movement itself, when I saw the cars parked there, I was excited.
Man, I love to hear that too. And it's something that it makes us all smile. And as emotional as yesterday was, both on a great uplifting emotional day, but it's also a hard day too, because it makes us remember those brothers and sisters that we've lost. And you mentioned the 22 from suicides every day. Nobody really talks about those veterans that die at a 50% greater rate from accidental overdose than civilians do, just because of what you mentioned earlier. 120 lower tabs a month, you take them as normally prescribed, have a couple beer, and guess what? Our sister didn't wake up. That's frustrating and that's preventable. And I love the fact that you were excited about seeing your brothers and sisters out there at this event. And just thank you for being a part of that and being a part of this movement.
Well, Joshua, when you mentioned the casket movement itself, when I went back to the truck and grabbed my mask to put in there, I was absolutely overwhelmed. Of just watching the casket and my family being in a funeral home business, that could have been me, could have been you, could have been my sister.
Right.
because of what we've had to deal with the VA and fighting for access to something that can actually help us.
Anthony, you and your sister have both served. Do you come from a military family?
My father and mother were both educators, but my grandfather was a U.S. Navy veteran, and actually he was on the USS Kitty Hawk that was sank at sea. Um,
Wow.
so guys of that era did not have access to the things that we have access to now, or even a chance to have access to it.
Right.
But yeah, we have a huge military background in our family.
That is awesome. And I can't say thank you enough just for, the level of service and the sacrifice that you and your family have both done for this country. I'm forever indebted to you all. You are a brother of mine, a brother in arms. And, no matter what, we're always going to stick together because that's one thing veterans do is we stick together and we fight for each other. And that's what we were doing at that casket demonstration is fighting for each other, right? So how do we continue to fight? What can we do to improve the messaging that's going out to say, hey, all we want's that choice? How do we improve that? And how can we help our brothers and sisters out?
Well, Joshua, I think that it's quintessential that we continue to educate the masses, eradicate the reefer madness ideology, um, and gain numbers. We need more of our brothers and sisters to be out there actively fighting with us and get our congressmen, our elected officials on board to change the laws
Yes.
that are killing us.
Yes, absolutely. So when you think about changing laws, we talk about this a lot on this show, and the Veterans for Cannabis podcast is really an advocacy movement. It's an education movement. It's an information movement,
Yep,
but it's a get off your ass movement. That's what it's about, right?
absolutely,
So if
absolutely.
you want to change laws, how can you do that? How can you and I affect policy change?
Well, we have to get our congressmen that represent our specific areas, call them, email them, and get all of our friends that are veterans, first of all, and then get our friends that are not they're civilians out there marching with us. Like I'm bringing a number of people to Tampa with us. I promise you, brother. They're
Oh,
coming to
love
Tampa
to
in
hear
numbers.
that.
Okay.
Love to hear that.
So we have to get numbers matter,
They
and
do.
numbers don't lie. So people lie, numbers don't. So we have to get people out there to educate and make our congressmen accountable. If not, they need to be ousted and get sworn in there that is going to represent the military, represent the veterans that have been out there because we have represented the country at our fullest.
So we talk about the reefer madness. That's what you had mentioned earlier, and I grew up that same way. I think we're both Georgia boys. I grew up in Northeast Georgia, really conservative, third most conservative district in all the United States from a voting base, and
Right.
the reefer madness was really there. It was a part of who I was. So how can we educate? What are some talking points that our listeners can take from this podcast and talk to those who are still suffering from reefer madness and help them improve the conversation?
Well, if people would consider a legal narcotic that they fill me up with day in and day out, and I was not capable of performing a job. I was tired all the time.
Hmm.
Um, I wasn't being helped. I was being medicated. My problems, the issues that I was going through, were just became something that was numb. But I was a numb mind wise, body wise. And once I started experimenting with cannabis and I started to live again. I started to be able to thrive, to do things, to be a part of not only an active member of society, but an active member of my family.
Right.
And so that like things of that nature, and watching, and if anyone out there that has an issue with the cannabis, if they start, if they give themselves an opportunity to educate themselves, read, Google sources, but watch a family member that was dead, walking dead, start living again. It's an amazing thing for people to see, and it will help us not talk about the 22 anymore. As you said yesterday, we're not going to save every suicide victim, but if we save one, it's a start.
Absolutely. And I think exactly what you just said, that's the start too. Not only from a standpoint of we save one, hey, boom, we're doing our job. But two, it's opening up the dialogue. When you personalize something, Anthony, you change it. So as
Absolutely.
our listeners hear this and they take this message forward, what we're telling them to do and what we're asking them to do is personalize the message, whether it's their story or if it's their brother's story, uncle's story, aunt's story, grandmother's story, personalize that to the person that they're trying to educate and inform, that changes everything. Is that correct?
Absolutely, and cannabis for sure. But when you look at even some of our CBD stores, you look at Charlotte, you look at Hope, you look at Haley, and all the listeners can look up these kids' children's names and watch how it's helped them and made these kids able to live, to communicate, and they were having grandma seizures 20 a day, and watching we as veterans watch us that yesterday we talked about a guy who's taking 130 pills a day. He could only active for an hour a day out of 24 hours. That's not fair
Wow.
to any veteran that is given an ultimate sacrifice, and it's fought for the country. And we would sincerely hope that the country will start fighting for us.
Yeah. And you know what? If the country doesn't start fighting for us, we're going to damn sure keep fighting for ourselves because
Absolutely.
there's one thing
Hey, I got
about
your
it.
six always, brother.
Absolutely, brother. And that's the thing about it. People don't understand is our veteran community, we are tight. We may not see each other for 5 or 10 years, but it's like no time has passed when we see each other. The same thing when we come together as a group yesterday, seeing just looking around the crowd. I mean, faces black, brown, white, yellow, red, doesn't matter. Socioeconomic backgrounds are all different, different, places in life, different ages, and we're all there for one reason to help each other
Absolutely.
out.
And Joshua, when you mentioned that even the socioeconomic background, the socioeconomic not, the background can't change, but helping people start living and being productive citizens again. They're productive veterans, so give them an opportunity to be productive citizens again now, and get them out of this hellhole that we've been placed in, because the BA has turned it back on us.
And we're going to try to do that. We're not going to try, Anthony. We are going to do
No, we're
that
gonna do it.
together. That's right. It's really about teaching our brothers and sisters how to get out from behind the TV and computer. I say it all the time, and I'm going to continue to say it again. You get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's what we want to try to teach them. But moreover, we want to try to teach them a new trade. We want to try to teach them a new mission in life because when they get out of the military, they lose that sense of mission. So,
Who's that
hey,
camaraderie?
that's right. And if we can provide that new sense of mission in the cannabis industry together, the camaraderie follows.
Absolutely. Whenever you feel good, you do good.
100%, 100%. And there's a whole lot of benefit that comes along with growing a plant, right? We
Correct.
talked about it and we'll continue to talk about it ad nauseum. The agrotherapy side of it is where you watch a seed go into the ground, watch that thing come to life, you baby it. I have seen a mother over a 6 month period that did not care whether her child got off the bus or not become a mother again by watching plants, mothering those plants in the field, managing her PTS, and then made medicine from that plant and helped her get better. And then she became a mother to her own children again. That's the
Absolutely.
impact we can have.
Absolutely. And she can't OD on it.
No, that's the great thing about it. The death rate's been steady for 10,000 years, still at zero. So Anthony, you and I talked yesterday, and you have some family with some land in South Georgia. Is that correct?
Correct.
So have you ever been a farmer? Have you ever gotten into farming? Is that something you've ever been interested in?
I have actually lived on the farm, Joshua, for about a year and a half. I'm a country boy at heart. So
Nice.
my farm down there, it's got diesel tanks in the ground, we've got tractors, land ready to plow, and we grew tobacco, and no one that I know of could argue that tobacco is healthy for you.
Right. But they damn sure sold a lot of it, right? I tell you,
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said they've damn sure sold a lot of it, right?
Oh, absolutely,
Whether it was beneficial or not.
absolutely.
So you think about growing, you think about being a farmer. Is that something that we could teach our veteran community? Is how to grow and be farmers and grow maybe industrial hemp?
Uh, Joshua, I have a very good friend of mine and a comrade at arms, and he has a warrior farm. And I watch guys that I do search and rescue for my veterans. I do combat. I do combat. I do search and rescue for combat veterans, and
Wow.